Hey everyone, let's wrap up February. And I was really bad at making videos. I only uploaded one discussion video where we talked about that I'm tired of reading ebooks all the time. And we had a wonderful discussion pointing out what we liked about reading ebooks and what we didn't like about them. And most of us like the convenience of them. And we can't deny that. They are very convenient. But the reading experience, a lot of you like me didn't like it as much as reading a physical book. Thank you all for talking about that with me. I also uploaded another letter to February, and that one had footage and I had a better month. So thank you all for watching and also for enjoying them, even if I don't have a good month. What I didn't do is make any videos about books I read. So that's what we're doing now, talking about all the books I finished in February in the order I read them or added them to a list. Let's try that. The first book I finished in February was Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I listened to this on audiobook and I really enjoyed the presentation and the narration of it. I also liked the writing and the story surprised me, but I must say I wasn't overly interested and into the story or into the characters. Tess of the D'Urberville, I hadn't realized before, was a story of double standards and a woman who had been taken advantage of before and then gets thrown aside because she has been taken advantage of before. The book contains a lot of presentation or representation of the working life of women in that time that Hardy Road. I have forgotten what time that was. But anyways, it's really detailed about her life, about the struggles she has, the double standards she has to face with comparing to men and with religion and status and society and class and all those things. It's a good book, but I just wasn't that much interested, so I'm glad I read it. The next book was similarly disappointing. I read The Tempest, and I had expected a different kind of story, something more bombastic, something grander than that I got. I expected more magic to be in there and something more, just more. It was lacking everything. It wasn't bad. I mean, it's William Shakespeare, but it was just something where I thought, I don't even remember the story right now. I remember that I heard about the book in retellings or in reference in other media and books, films, series, whatever. And I wanted to read the original piece that everyone's referring to. But the idea I had from all the references was a different one. So the story ended up being disappointing. And like I said, I already forgot what it was about. I can't even remember the character's name. The next book I read was A Present and a physical book, The Paris Enigma. It turns out to be historical detective fiction. This is set in the World Fair in Paris in 18 something, and it's centered around a group of detectives and the detective work. It has a lot of stories of crimes and how they solved them, and there's a mystery going on that needs to be solved there. It was light, it was entertaining. I'm not particularly a fan of detective stories or historical fiction, but this was enjoyable. It's just not something that I seek out to read. Then I listened to 4,000 Weeks, and this I actually listened to twice because I really liked the idea of the book. So the idea is it's a nonfiction book and that our life is merely 4,000 weeks and that we have to decide what we want to do with that and how we can actually manage that. And it also puts it in the ideas or in the context of today's productivity obsession, in time management obsession, and how this actually affects us. What I really liked about this book was that it took a look at time, how we perceive it, how it actually works, and what it means to different people and how we should look at it. Then it also tells us that to be realistic about things, we will never do all the things that are on a to-do list. We will never have enough time. And that really helped me look at things I've been struggling with lately. It's not only focusing on work, but also on private life, that we have a lot of things that we want to do. I am particularly prone to that I want to do a lot of things all the time, but I find that I don't have the time for all of the things. And that's what he clearly says. He says, if you want to do one thing, you need to make time for it. And maybe if you want to do another thing, then something else has to go. And I was aware of that, but not in the way that he mentioned it. And it really highlighted it for me that I need to readjust my thinking about how I'm using my time, how I'm planning my time and organizing my time, especially privately, of what I can actually do. So this actually, despite sounding very critical of time management and not enough time for everything, helped me rethink my relationship with time, is that the right word, or my obsession with productivity and getting things done and finding time for all the things without actually realizing that that's not possible. And that's why I listened to it twice, to listen to all the things again and get more of the message. I can highly recommend this book. The next book I finished was also an audiobook, Joy at Work. It's also nonfiction and it came out last year, and I had seen it recommended in my Audible account all the time, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to read it or not because it sounded kind of strange. But because I've been struggling so much with enjoying work and being so demotivated, I thought, why not give it a try? And it was good and not helpful at the same time. It's a very interesting book as it looks at the effect that cleaning and decluttering your office space, your workspace, can have on your life or work life. So a lot of the physical cleaning, decluttering things weren't helpful for me because I had done all of that in the past from other books I read, from general ideas I have about decluttering and having my workspace organized. So that wasn't very helpful for me. In that section, I found it more interesting, the stories they told about people that decluttered their space and what they found out by decluttering about their relationship to their job and to their work-life situation. So that was very interesting, the effects that physical decluttering can have on your outlook and your joy at work. But the book wasn't only focused on decluttering physical space, but also your calendar, your meetings, your decisions, a lot of other things. And also looking a little bit at, does this spark joy? And I always find that a little bit cheesy, but the way they connected that to your work life, it actually made sense in a little way to look at what actually do I like about my job and what don't I like. And that was very helpful. A lot of things are still out of my control and I can't help them, but it really made me realize a few little things that could change or need to change so that I enjoy my job again. So in that part, I can highly recommend the book. The next book I finished was a really cute and fast read, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. I honestly bought this because one of the characters in a show that I've been frequently watching in January kept rereading this book, and there were quotes from the book and they sounded so cute, so I was curious. And this is the story of a China rabbit doll that learns how to fall in love and what it means to be in love. And it's a fun story. It's not magical story where the China doll actually can move and walk. It's more that in the beginning of the story, the rabbit feels a little bit snobbish and cold-hearted, but then when his owner loses him, he gets moved from one person to another and slowly learns how to connect to people and feel loved by people and also love people, or yes, people, because it's always people who pick him up. And it's such a cute story. It's such a fast read. It left me really all warm and fuzzy. I also read Exhalation in February, which is a short story collection with varying successful stories and varying lengths of stories. Now, I have a hit or miss feeling about short story collections. I sometimes like to try out short story collections to get to know an author or to get into their writing style. And I must say, Chiang's writing style is really appealing. I liked the way he builds stories, the way he builds worlds, the way he introduces and builds characters. I really enjoyed that. When it comes to the stories themselves, some I liked, some I didn't really understand, and there was one extremely long story that just bored me to death. It wasn't something I was interested in, nothing really happened, and then the way it ended, it wasn't even that you get that feeling of you have an ending, that closure feeling, which I know short stories are not supposed to give you that way, but after struggling through all that time with that story, I was rather disappointed. And as it always is with short story collections, I really don't know how to summarize them and put them together, because As I said, some of them really impacted me and others I have forgotten already. The last book I finished in February was Murder by Other Means. I listened to this on audio and this was a re-listen. I've listened to this book before. It's the second book in the Dispatcher series, where it's sort of a mystery series in a world where people can't be murdered anymore because they just come back to life. And so this is another crime story or murder series that needs to be solved by the main character, the dispatcher, and police friends. After I said I'm not much of a mystery reader, I really enjoy the series. It's fun to listen to. I always listen to the books in one setting because it's just 3 or 4 hours long and you can just fly through it and you don't want to put it down. So highly enjoyable. Before we finish, let's quickly address my Korean learning. Last month, I thought I want to try out Duolingo, and that Talk to Me in Korean wasn't working so well for me. After reading 4,000 Weeks and generally having more stress at work because one of my colleagues was sick and I was doing a lot of overtime, I thought about the fact that Duolingo was just on my phone again or on the computer, which I struggle with in the first place. So instead of doing that, I decided I'd try if buying the workbooks or the books for Talk to Me in Korean would help. So I've been trying to implement a routine there. It works better than learning on the computer, and in addition to the podcast, working through the lessons helps me a little bit. I still feel I'm slower progressing than with the audio course by Pimsleur, and I still miss the active participation of repeating and the amount of speaking I had with the Pimsleur course. But I also think that I've been expecting too much of this learning experience in February. So in March, I'm taking a step back, finishing those 2 books, trying to feel comfortable with what I'm doing right now, and then see how I want to progress from there, probably with level 3 of Talk to Me in Korean, which at the moment turns out to be the best option I can find. So let's see how that goes. Thank you all for watching. I'm sorry if this feels rushed, but I'm experiencing quite some back pain still, and that makes me kind of stupid in the brain and hurts me in any position I am. So it doesn't really matter if I'm standing or sitting or lying down. But I wanted to put this out because March is already 1 week in, and I want to know how your February was, how your reading is going, if you've had a good month, a bad month, if you've read something wonderful that you think I should check out, anything reading or life-wise. Thank you all for watching.